You've
Am
created,
I wrong
you've
about
created,
mail-ins?
you have created.
Am I wrong about the vulnerability of mail-in balloting?
You have created.
No, I'm not wrong. You
have
can't
created.
even say I'm wrong.
You have created a hypothetical situation
No,
and then attacked that hypothetical situation. The reality is that neither you nor Donald Trump, when he was on that interview with Kristen Welker, could name any instance, a single instance of widespread voter fraud. And so y'all can get mad about individual instances that you've conjured up in your heads. But unless you can show actual proof of widespread voter fraud, then you are just getting mad at something that we do not have evidence of.
In today's video, Tyler Cohen goes head-to-head with John Ziegler in a heated CNN debate over voter fraud claims, mail-in ballots, and the ongoing MAGA narrative surrounding election integrity. Brian pushes back with facts and evidence, while Ziegler argues that concerns about the election system remain valid. As the discussion intensifies, the clash turns into a powerful showdown over trust in American elections and the influence of political messaging. You won't want to miss this one, so make sure to like, subscribe, comment, and share. Now, let's get right into it.
For Republicans, because it exposes the game that they're playing. It exposes this con that Republicans are putting forward, where they will just basically cry fraud no matter what happens. If they really think that people, are they really trying to convince us right now that they believed that were it not for this massive amount of fraud taking place in California, that a Republican would become mayor of Los Angeles, the cradle of progressivism in the United States, one of the most liberal cities we have in the entire country? And so it just goes to show that just like it's a con here, it was also a con every single time Donald Trump opens his mouth and said the exact same thing from the 2020 election on forward.
But let's just be clear. It was nice that the Democrats let Steve Hilton get into the top two in the governor's race. That was very nice. I appreciate that. Did they bypass the system? Was that a misstep on your part when you were fixing this?
You know, and this is what we've seen over and over. For example, Republicans claim that every election in 2022 was rigged as well. Okay, so we rigged it, but we allowed Republicans to take control of the House and the Senate. So there are all of these holes and flaws in their arguments that never seem to be accounted for.
That being said, didn't Pratt bring up a lot of important issues that are real issues? That the fires, all sorts of mistakes when it came to that. That the homeless situation is a mess. That there are a lot of people on drugs in the middle of the street where people don't feel safe. I mean, he's speaking to the way people actually feel, and that's why a lot of people connected to him.
100%, although we got the exact same percentage of vote in Los Angeles as Donald Trump did in the 2024 election.
They end up with lower, actually.
And by the way, I think he has set the path for Rahman to beat Bass, and for a lot of different reasons, one of which is the most underrated part of this story, and I'm going to take you guys on, especially the Democrat here. How come no one's talking about the fact that an incumbent mayor endorsed by Gavin Newsom, the presumptive Democratic nominee in 2028, and endorsed by Kamala Harris, the 2024 Democratic nominee, couldn't get 35% of the vote? Yeah. What an unbelievable, damning indictment of her and the Democratic establishment in California, as well as the embarrassment of this incredibly long vote counting process, which is ripe for people to misunderstand it as corruption. It's incompetence, not corruption.
Yeah, but yet, here's what Vice President J.D. Vance said tonight on Jesse Waters on Fox News.
Somehow we find ourselves in a situation where, number one, they're still receiving ballots, not just counting ballots, Jesse, they're still receiving ballots. And number two, the way that they're coming in just so happens to work out such that the Republican is getting kicked out of the final two, so it's a Democrat versus Democrat runoff. That seems pretty shady to me.
He says it's a shady election.
So basically what he's saying is that the Democratic establishment conjured up this whole plan that would in effect make it more difficult for Karen Bass to win the election. That was this grand scheme, according to J.D. Vance, that we wanted, that Karen Bass orchestrated an election where she is now pretty likely to lose because it's, at 50-50 at this point between her and Nithya Raman, as opposed to just having Spencer Pratt win and then basically allowing herself to go on a 5-month vacation. It is not difficult to get elected as a Democrat in Los Angeles. Well, and yet that, again, escapes J.D. Vance.
This debate highlights a pattern we've seen repeatedly in American politics. When election results don't go as expected, claims of fraud often emerge long before any evidence is presented. While concerns about California's lengthy vote-counting process are understandable, delayed results alone do not prove wrongdoing. The state processes millions of mail-in and provisional ballots while conducting extensive verification procedures designed to ensure accuracy. What strengthens Tyler Cohen's argument is that numerous investigations over the years have failed to uncover widespread voter fraud capable of changing major election outcomes. Courts across the country have consistently demanded evidence rather than speculation, and multiple reviews have not produced proof of large-scale election manipulation. That said, completely dismissing voter concerns would also be a mistake. Many Americans have genuine frustrations about issues like homelessness, public safety, economic challenges, and government performance. Those concerns deserve serious discussion and accountability. However, blaming unfavorable election results on a coordinated conspiracy without clear evidence can erode public trust in democratic institutions. Critics also point to a major contradiction. If election systems are supposedly rigged for one party, how do we explain victories by the opposing party in congressional, statewide, and local races conducted under the same rules? Accepting results when your side wins but rejecting them when it loses raises important questions about consistency. Ultimately, healthy skepticism is important in any democracy. Election systems should always be reviewed, improved, and made more transparent. But extraordinary claims require solid evidence. In the end, confidence in elections depends not on assumptions or political frustration, but on facts, proof, and accountability. If you're enjoying the discussion, don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and share. Let me know your thoughts below, and let's keep the conversation going.
If you really want Republicans to win, which I know you do, is that this gets rid of confidence in the system and it depresses turnout amongst Republicans who now probably won't turn out and certainly may not turn out when there's big issues like the wealth tax or other things in the fall that could really hurt Republican voters.
Thank you so much for mentioning this, because as a real conservative, maybe the last one still standing that doesn't support Donald Trump in America, this really bothers me greatly because we are eroding trust in our system, which would be bad for the country as a whole, but specifically for Republicans, specifically here in California. We've got a gubernatorial candidate on the ballot, and as you said, an incredibly important billionaire theft situation that needs to be, in my opinion, soundly defeated, which may not be because Republicans may not show up because they're being told their votes don't count when there's no evidence or logic behind that. It's incredibly nefarious from a standpoint of our society, our political system, and yes, Republican politics.
Yeah, and we know that President Trump sometimes makes up his own reality and then sometimes also goes after people that he doesn't like very clearly.
Right, and ironically enough, Donald Trump just created a media offenders list. So basically an enemies list for content creators, and he put my name on it. And so if you search whitehouse.gov for this media offenders list, you'll find my name. And I just think, for a guy who presented himself as this free speech champion, this crusader against censorship, for him now to go after YouTubers, podcast hosts, I mean, it's just the peak of weakness. Donald Trump is a fragile, small, petty little man. And the reality is that I wear his scorn as a badge of honor to be named alongside people like Jimmy Kimmel and Stephen Colbert. And the reality is, if Donald Trump is so eager to release lists now, he should probably start with the one that he's on 38,000 times.
Okay, you're referencing the Epstein list, of course. John, maybe we got to get on the media offender list at some point.
Trump is no fan of mine.
I know.
Either,
so let's talk though about the system in California, because we're all sort of saying that there isn't fraud, but that doesn't mean that it couldn't be improved, and there should be changes to the system, right? What would you change in terms of the way elections are done?
100%. I think it is embarrassing, not just the vote counting process, but can we get rid of this sham that the idea of universal mail-in balloting is not vulnerable to some level of fraud? It is a joke. Anybody who is elderly or newly deceased is going to have relatives in that home who are going to be able to take those ballots and do whatever they want with them. Now, does that change an election in a place as large as Los Angeles or California? No, but it's still fraud. It's still wrong. And frankly, I actually think we ought to be making voting as difficult as possible. Too many people are voting that don't have any idea what the hell they're voting for. The fact that we're making it so easy is I think, a problem not just for Republicans, but also for society society at large.
I could not disagree more. And I think it's actually perfectly emblematic of the conservative position, which is create a straw man, get angry about that straw man, and then start to attack it.
Am I wrong about mail-ins?
You have created
Am I wrong about the vulnerability of mail-in balloting?
You have created
No, I'm not wrong.
You have created
You
have created a hypothetical situation
No,
and then attacked that hypothetical situation. The reality is that neither you nor Donald Trump, when he was on that interview with Kristen Welker, could name any instance, a single instance of widespread voter fraud. And so y'all can get mad about individual instances that you've conjured up in your heads, but unless you can show actual proof of widespread voter fraud, then you are just getting mad at something that we do not have evidence of right now.
You think mailing ballots to every single person, even if they don't ask for them, which often goes to people that no longer live in these homes, doesn't create some sort of problem?
Thank you.
Correct. I do not. I think the more people, I think automatic voter registration, mailing ballots to everybody is doing whatever we can.
It's good for Democrats.
Doing whatever we.
It's very, very good for Democrats.
No, hold on. Utah has full mail-in voting.
Brian.
Utah has full mail-in voting, and in fact, that state is interesting in particular because Utah wanted to see how many non-citizens were voting, and so they did a full study of all of their 2 million registered voters. They found one undocumented voter on their voter rolls. That person had never even voted. And so in all of these instances, it's not a straw man. That's an actual study that occurred. But in all of these instances, there has no evidence of widespread fraud, and not a single Republican can point to one.
All right, we got to go.
This exchange highlights how much of the election debate is driven by perception rather than hard evidence. While questions about ballot security and voter access are fair topics to discuss, large-scale studies have consistently found little evidence of widespread fraud in mail-in voting systems. Take states like Utah and Colorado, which have successfully used mail voting for years. Reviews and audits have repeatedly failed to uncover the kind of large-scale manipulation often claimed in political debates. In one widely discussed review of millions of voter registrations, only a single non-citizen registration was identified, and no vote was actually cast. Results like that matter because they directly test some of the most common concerns surrounding election security. Election experts also emphasize that mail ballots go through several layers of verification before being counted. Signature checks, ballot tracking, unique identifiers, and post-election audits are all designed to catch irregularities before results are finalized. This is where Tyler Cohen's argument gains strength. Across multiple election cycles, investigations, court cases, and bipartisan reviews have consistently found that while isolated issues can occur, there is no evidence of fraud on a scale capable of changing major election outcomes. At the same time, concerns about voter participation remain important. Many researchers argue that improving access and maintaining security should work together rather than be treated as competing goals. The larger question is whether what's really going on? That's why many people use ground news. It lets you compare how outlets across the political spectrum are covering the same story, helping you see the bigger picture instead of being stuck in a single media bubble. If you're enjoying this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and share. Your support helps the channel grow and keeps these conversations going.